Hello, everyone. Welcome to the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel and our Fast X spoiler discussion that we could not do on this week's episode of Monday Madness. If you go and watch that episode, which is on the channel now, you will not find a spoiler discussion of Fast X. How unusual for Monday Madness, you may say to yourself, but that is because of when we had to record that episode this past weekend. I hadn't seen this movie yet, but I have now. So we're only like a day later, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
good. We're
we're good.
fine. Spoiler discussion of the latest in the Fast and Furious series. I am fast. Janine, you are furious. Although I don't know why you're so furious. Calm down, Janine. I'll slow down, and you need to calm down.
Okay, I will.
That's
I
how
will
it
try.
works.
I will try.
Although I can't slow down anywhere near as much as I possibly should do, I think. I don't know. I'm excited to actually talk about this movie today, though. In
Yes.
full crazy detail, because
Yes. I mean, since I had seen it at the time of our Monday recording, I did give a bit of a non-spoiler review. So if you're looking for a non-spoiler review, you will get that from the Monday show. But here we're going full spoilers. So
yeah, full
excited to talk
spoilers
about
from
that.
the get-go. We are going to get straight into it. We're going to do this discussion, as we always like to do, very free-flowing. There's no format here.
No,
This is
no, not
natural.
really.
This is discussion.
Not
This is
really
what we
ever.
like to do. Formatting is too formal.
Yes.
Some format is good, but strict formatting is too formal. You need free-flowing, as it cuts you off when you don't want to. If you're not free-flowing,
Yes.
you're allowed to be natural. We like that.
Open conversation. Yes, we do like that.
We do like that. I don't quite know where to start, though, with Fast X. What I will say is that I do think it, again, full spoilers right from the get-go, so please, if you haven't seen Fast X, go and watch the non-spoiler version on this week's Monday Madness,
We also do rank all
and
the
not
movies.
this. We
So if
do,
you wanna
yes,
know
we do.
where they sit with us.
Apart from this one, because we hadn't seen this one. Or I
Yeah.
hadn't seen this one. I actually had an awful lot of fun with this one. I always tend to with the Fast and Furious movies when we did them for Morgan hasn't seeing Fast 9 since that and obviously now this one as well. I always do tend to have fun with them. I think this is actually a better action movie than Fast 9 was. I think the action scenes in Fast X are wonderfully drawn out things. The whole Rome bomb sequence, I
Oh
think,
my
is
gosh.
so great.
Yes. That was a really
Um,
extensive set piece as well. Like, it went on for what felt like forever.
it really did, and that's what I really liked about this particular movie is that yes, you've got all your typical kind of stuff in there. It actually does feel like something that that I like about the Fate of the Furious is that Dom Toretto was brainwashed, wasn't he, and kind of switched
Blackmailed
to
into switching sides.
blackmailed,
Yeah.
switched
Yeah.
to Cypher's side, and the rest of the family almost had to fight him before he came back around, and it was all fine. This, I think, does something equally as interesting by pitting it very much as the family against the world, against everybody. Like, who can they trust? There's actually quite a lot of interesting backstabbing and double crossing and uneasy alliances and genuine alliances with people
And
you don't
weird team
think
ups.
will be
Yeah.
genuine alliances.
Unexpected pairings. Yeah.
There's really interesting stuff in there from a series standpoint surrounding that kind of thing. And I really liked that about it. Put that with these really huge action scenes. that actually didn't feel like horrendously out of sorts, and stupid compared to what we have seen. I mean, the last movie did go to space. There's
Yeah.
things where, they've been jumping off cliffs in a car, landing in planes, and then somehow not falling out of the plane and that sort of stuff. I don't think we quite get that. I actually think there's a little bit more reasonability about some of the things going on. Obviously, some of the car stunts are a little bit out there, a little
Yes.
bit crazy. The one particular one in Rome when Vin Diesel saves the Vatican because he's the most religious person ever. And
Yeah, the
Vin
way
Diesel,
he's like knows that that cable is gonna swing the car around just right to hit the bomb to
right,
throw it into the water. Like, how do you know that's gonna hook onto your car?
like a stupid pinball machine. But it's okay. You go and jump yourself over this conveniently placed little pile of debris, smack yourself into the side of a crane that somehow is able to just spin around, hit a ton weight bomb into the river. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But
Yeah.
we say fair enough to that kind of
Yes.
thing.
When you
We
know
do
what
say fair
franchise you're
enough.
in, you can say that.
But I really did like the action in the movie, to be honest with you. I think it's a step up from what Nine was doing as a
Yeah.
movie. Although somewhat disappointingly, it ends up being just a setup movie, Fast X,
Yeah, that is true.
which all those interesting things, the double crosses, the backstabbing, like I've said, the uneasy alliances, they don't go anywhere in this movie because
These
it's a
like
setup movie.
these potential fates for our characters, potential death of our characters, all of that is kind of rendered like up in the air question mark because yes, this is a complete setup movie.
And Fast and Furious has an interesting, I say interesting, has a strange relationship with the deaths of its characters anyway, as nobody ever actually dies who dies in these movies.
No.
Like, who very obvious, let's count the people who very obviously died in these movies. Han. Oh no, wait, no, that's not right, is it? He came back. Gal Gadot. Oh no, wait, that's not right. She's
She
now
came
back.
back.
What's that about at the very end of this movie? I'm not so sure about that at all. Don't mind Gal Gadot, nothing against Gal Gadot. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
not the point. The point is how
Yes. Yeah, so we don't.
Letty,
Yeah.
Letty in 4, dead, came back.
Came
Ooh,
back magically. Yes, like this franchise has become a bit of a soap opera. Those very cheesy storylines where somebody comes back and they have amnesia or you know, uh they're the evil twin of somebody else. Like I'm we're just like one movie away from getting kind of storylines like that with these returning characters
we
that
got
are
an evil
seemingly
brother.
dead.
Last movie, that was John Cena, but he's fine now.
Well, no, now he's potentially
Well,
dead.
well,
So
technically now he's supposed to be. I mean,
but
in
can we
this
believe
movie,
that?
he's a
Can we
family
believe
member.
that?
He's fine. Everybody likes him, but he was technically the villain of the last movie.
Yes. And I think
So
they
he was
even
the
kind
evil
of
brother.
I think they even maybe there's a line about that, like, um, e I can't remember if that was in another Fast movie, but I know they've addressed that before that, like, Dom always expects, these people to join his family, but that's not gonna happen this time. Uh, so, I mean, it's something they are kind of aware of that, like, the villain ends up kinda joining the team at a certain point. Um,
Yeah, it's
so,
weird.
yeah, but I definitely don't think that's I don't know. The way Jason Momoa played this villain, I don't see that happening here.
Not with Mr. Momoa, I don't think, who
No.
is absolutely the entire highlight of this movie. Um, he is giving a lesson in how to play flamboyant over theatricality to a
Yes, definitely.
absolute pitch perfect degree. And I mean that entirely genuinely. Like,
Yes.
I don't view this as a stupid performance. It's a hammy performance. It's an over the top performance. But is it
In the
not
best way.
absolutely
Yeah.
perfect for this
For
movie?
this movie, for
Yes, it
this
is.
franchise, and it's completely different from anything we've seen in this franchise before in terms of our villains. They're all drug lords, not very memorable, pretty straightforward business suit, like, nothing very slick, nothing
I,
standout or special.
I would
Um,
argue Cypher.
yes, she is maybe different, but even then, she's not eccentric or,
No, she's not
flamboyant, like you
necessarily
said.
eccentric, but she's now
So
been in 3 movies back to back
yes.
to back
Yes.
for a
So, I
reason.
mean, she's more calculated, more serious, more thoughtful, and they've kind of expanded on her from movie to movie, which I've appreciated, especially when you have, an Oscar winner. So,
Yes.
use her and don't get rid of her. Um, but to this degree, we've never had a character like Dante, like Jason Momoa's Dante in a Fast movie. And I don't know that you would expect it to fit, and it works so well, I think just because it's, like, something refreshing when these movies kind of blur together at certain points and feel very much routine and the same in terms of, what you can expect from them. So to have an unexpected entity like Dante, I think was a lot of fun for this movie, and I think the franchise needed something like that.
Absolutely, and I've seen people say that, "Oh, here's just another villain that wants to take down the whole family," and I'm there thinking to myself, "Well, that's not really been the case." It was the case, I suppose, with Deckard Shaw, but who else who else, villain-wise, in the entire series, has had the mentality of, "I want revenge on the family"?
Yeah, nobody. Like
Only
Braga
these 2.
Braga was about just, like, things that were directly affecting him. His whole operation was having these drug runners run drugs for him, and then he would kill them after so there wouldn't be any witnesses to his crimes.
Yeah.
Dom and Brian got away, Letty got away, and that's the only reason they got in his crosshairs because they were screwing up his personal plan. Same with
There's nothing
Reyes,
against them.
Dante's
Same with
dad.
Reyes.
Yeah, like, I don't even think he was fully aware of them until they screwed up his whole plan and got, like, his little key card or whatever that had all his information on it, and that's when it turned into him coming after them. But it
Yeah,
was never any vendetta situation,
Owen Shaw just had Letty and they wanted to get her away from him,
and they were recruited to stop this crew.
and they
Like, they
were
were called
recruited.
in. Yes. So there was never
S
any personal vendetta kind of going into any of
No.
those things.
7 was all about the God's Eye, and it didn't really matter who the villain was because it was just,
'Cause I
"We
completely
want
forgot
that."
that, like, I literally made a TikTok about people you forgot were in the Fast and Furious franchise. Um, and it wasn't even until my whole big rewatch before 10 that I remembered Jaimin Hansu is supposed to be like our big bad villain in that movie, and I was like, "I totally
Yeah,
forgot Jaimin Hansu was even in that movie."
yeah. Um, yeah, there's certainly not been a villain as, on the same level of Jason Momoa, of Dante in this one, but there's not really been a villain with the same mentality, with the same
Motivations,
drive,
yeah,
motivation either, which is what I think is very, very memorable, very, very fresh feeling for a 10th movie,
yeah,
technically an 11th movie, but a 10th movie
yeah.
in the series. It's really quite impressive. And these movies are silly. These movies are not high art. They don't need to be, they don't profess to be, they don't want
No, they're
to
not
be.
trying to be anything but entertaining and give the fans what they expect.
So why
So
not have one of the most genuinely all-encompassingly enjoyable performances in a movie like this from Jason Momoa? I didn't think Jason Momoa was quite able to be so dancing and prancing and giggly and singing and
And
all these
painted
kind of
nails and
crazy
scrunchies
things.
and yes, and
Yeah,
talking to dead bodies.
he he's
I mean,
completely unhinged, but in the best, most delightful
yes,
kind
I
of
mean, people
hilarious way.
yes, people have made that Joker comparison, and, like, I
It's
think
not
it kinda
unaccurate.
fits.
It's not
Yes,
inaccurate.
it's not far from accurate in terms of how he's playing this character.
Even down to some of my favorite versions of Batman's the Joker. There's some sort of there's almost gay coding in there,
Yeah,
and that's a thing we see in old Hollywood movies quite a bit because you weren't actually allowed to
out
say
allowed to say
people were
anything,
outright homosexual. But I found that very interesting with Momoa, and I find it interesting a lot of the time with Joker. In that, I think some of the best depictions of Joker are very much on that kind of
flamboyant fluid spectrum.
no. I mean, yes, but I mean in on that kind of sexually perverse kind of way where he's
Oh,
kind of just
mhm.
flirting with Batman in an intimidating way.
Yes,
And I
and make
feel like
and
that
very
was what was going on
yes,
with
trying to make
Momoa and Dom.
Batman uncomfortable or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's definitely what was going on sometimes because Dante clearly hates Dom Toretto, hates what he did to the family, but there's elements of him that he's very much playing. Same with what Javier Bardem did in Skyfall. It,
Yes,
it's
very playful.
intimidating,
Yes,
flirting
yes,
with your somewhat insecure masculine
yes.
lead that I found very, very interesting about Dante, very enjoyable about Dante, and that's why I would liken him to someone like Joker. I think it's an easy comparison, but because I think it's different, although surprisingly similar because he's equally as kind of manic as chaotic. He is laughing when he shoots people. He is really smiling when he tells people, "Oh, don't you guys who have stolen from Cypher, don't go anywhere because just remember, I still have your
I got all
families
about your
locked up, so
families.
carry
The
on."
way he turned that whole team, I thought was really fun and smart. Um, and
Very intelligent, very powerful.
yes. Um, and I do also like how they made his motivations also be a direct kind of homage almost or honoring of his father. I like that they kind of retold that scene and those moments from Fast 5 and having his father tell him, death is too easy, what you want to do to your enemies is make them suffer. And so that's kind of the
Yeah,
bit of advice and guidance from his father that he takes into this whole mission to take down Dom. It's easy to kill him, but he'd rather make him suffer by making the whole family, separating them, isolating them,
and you
and
assume he's going to try and pick them off one by one until it gets
yes.
to Dom and just
But
break
making this
Dom.
team that, is recruited, people want them because of their skills and what they've been able to accomplish, I mean, despite all the property damage. Um, and
A lot of
making them
property damage, yeah.
making them, like, enemy number 1, not just in the US, but to the whole world with this Rome stuff
Yeah.
and making them most wanted and known as this destructive team who's just ruining everything. So, break them down, and that is just kind of like, his driving force, which I like is connected to the revenge because that was something he got from his father. And also just smart to connect, they've done these retelling connectivity type situations like with Tokyo Drift and rewriting that whole narrative. Um, but I think this was really if you were going to do that again, it's definitely smart to do that and connect it to probably the most acclaimed and loved film of the franchise, which is Fast 5. So if you're
Yeah, and it's actually it's merged in really well at the beginning of this movie with Fast 5 because you get scene from Fast Five intercut with Jason Momoa's Dante within those scenes, and it's
Yes.
really quite smoothly done. It's really, really well done.
Yes, and it's really nice to see Brian again because that's one of my biggest gripes about this movie, is the treatment of that character. Um
Well, we will certainly get into that. Let's get
Yes,
into
yeah,
how we feel all our main characters are behaving like, how they are
yes,
doing, where
and all
they
the
end up or maybe not end up in this
yes.
particular movie. We can start with Brian because Brian's obviously not actually a physical character in the Fast
Yes,
and Furious
so
movies anymore.
my whole thing is, yes, Paul Walker has died, but you as a movie, you as a franchise made the decision to keep the character alive. So make the character feel like he is still alive in this universe. It was like a pitch perfect moment. Oh, there's an empty seat at the table. Oh, he's on his way. And we see the car pull in. Well done. Perfect. We feel like Brian is still a presence in this franchise.
And that was at the end of 9.
9. Yes. So here to not even have any involvement and it's just this exposition we get about him. Yet Mia, but he's okay, Brian has to stay out of it. But Mia is okay to be in the mix and fighting and kicking ass and doing all of these things. Um let's see their children because I think, they had their son Jack and then I think in another movie she said she was pregnant again. So they have 2 kids. Why not have those kids play with their cousin, little B, and them getting up into the mix and we see, well, their parents taught them well. Look at them being able to like be smart and fight and or hide and protect their cousin or something. And then we have Brian drive up maybe and hit one of the bad guys with his car, and then pick them all
Yeah.
up and get them out of that situation and use his brother and we just see him in the distance in the car like calling them to get into the car or something. Like you chose to keep this character alive, so make him feel like he's alive in this universe. It makes no sense that the whole point was to get him and Mia and the kids out of the danger, but yet Mia's freely coming into the danger, which I love that we're getting Mia doing more action and seeing her more in part of the team and doing more physical stuff in the story. But it makes no sense to the story you set up for that why Brian is not around. So if you were just going to sideline him with exposition in the rest of these films, then just let the character pass as with the actor. Because it
I
feels
don't
like,
disagree.
you know, I feel like there are just better ways they can explain his absence or use him minimally or use him in ways like that, just him pulling into the driveways, creative things like that. Because,
I would agree with that.
so
I would agree with that.
that's just was something that bothered me, how they use Brian with just like, you know, minimal exposition. But yet Mia here is jumping into the fight and beating people up. And it's okay for her to, leave her kids and get in the fight. But Brian, who's been in the fight the whole time for all these movies, is now, you know, whatever they explain for him to not be around.
Yeah,
So,
I
you
I
know,
I w- I would agree. I
it
would
just
agree
doesn't
with that.
fit
And
with what
in
they've
that
set up.
particular in that particular scene you're talking about, it ends up obviously being John Cena who comes in and does
Yeah.
most of the saving anyway of
Yeah.
and takes little Brian out
Yeah.
to safety. Um, and that's the first time we see John Cena in this movie. Because Jacob's now fully, on
Ingratiated into
board
the family
family
and,
again. He's back on good terms with his
the
brother
daughter.
and
Yeah.
everybody else, and
And me and
it's
everything.
all it's all very
Um,
well and good. I actually really like the John Cena and little
Little B
Brian.
team up. Yeah. So like we do
Yeah,
get
scenes
these
the team,
different,
the
yeah.
the father and well, the uncle and nephew dynamic between
Yeah.
the two of them, I think is very, very fun. They kind of have to pretend like they're going on a holiday, a boating
Uncle and
trip or
nephew.
something like that,
Yes. And that's like that
because
their whole journey
there's
is when
everybody is after them.
yes. And that journey with the 2 of them is where we actually do get a cameo from Paul Walker's daughter. I think her name is Meadow. She's the flight attendant who gives him the little bottles of vodka to fuel
Oh,
his
yes.
canoe plane glider.
That's right. The bottles of vodka to fuel his canoe plane that he's in the hold of the plane that they're somehow able to get in, undo the bottom of the plane, and then fly out as though they themselves are Batman on a
Yeah,
boat
a canoe
plane
glider situation. Yeah. So,
with
um,
a 10-year-old.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
even a 10-year-old, with like an 8-year-old, 7-year-old, however old Brian's
No, I wanna
supposed to
say
be.
they made him, yeah, like 9 or 10 or something, but yeah, then and, like, I think they try to, like, make it fun, like, "Oh, so you were afraid of the plane, but you're not afraid of this, okay." Um,
They do,
but
yes, but it's silly, and I do admittedly think John Cena does well and continues to do well, really. I mean, just in general, in things he's in, of playing really quite goofy really well. And
yes.
I think he does it in this movie as well. He's not just he's not the hulking figure he looks like.
No,
He
he's
is
super
quite
endearing.
a heartfelt kind of, or warm, big-hearted, fun-loving kind of person, and he plays that as Jacob in this movie really quite well. I really do like
That
that
team up there.
particular part of the story.
Yeah.
Where we end up with John Cena is obviously in a sacrifice of him to save little Brian, and Dom ultimately kind of comes back into the. It's a whole big thing.
Yeah.
Dom comes back into the entire situation. Dom's been off. He is public enemy number one, so he has been really keeping a low profile,
Yeah.
to try and get away from Momoa and protect everybody else. But he, constantly throughout the movie, Jacob is telling little Brian, "Oh, we're going to meet your dad. We're going to meet your dad. We're going to go to this place. We're going to meet up with your dad." Eventually, that kind of does happen. There's another car chase. There's another people come involved, mercenaries, what have you. Jacob ends up sacrificing himself to save the two of them by crashing his car and destroying two other cars in the
That are
process in a
coming after
completely
them, yeah.
huge explosion. Whether Jacob is actually dead or not, we don't know because nobody ever dies
Yes, I mean,
in these movies.
theoretically, that explosion looked pretty final, but also so did Hans. So we'll see if we see John Cena again. But as of what we know, it appears he's potentially gone. But I don't.
Potentially.
I don't
Yes.
fully believe that. But yeah, one of the team ups that I did enjoy because we get so like I liked all the team ups. I just felt like it was a lot of separation, which I
Yeah, we
liked
get kind of
seeing.
four, don't we, really?
Yes. So I liked seeing our, these random team ups and how they work together, but also it was just a lot to kind of keep track of. Like I do kind of mention that in my spoiler free review where I'm just kind of like, you're jumping around to all these different it's a lot to have to keep track of, a lot of characters to have to keep track of on top of introducing new characters. So they're giving you a lot, and it's not hard like follow the story of it, but it's like you almost forgot what was happening and then you kind of have to reintroduce yourself when they bounce back to another duo or trio or whatever that we were with. And you kind of just have to give yourself this quick mental refresher to kind of, oh yeah, that's where they were. Oh yeah, that's what they were doing because it's just a lot going on in terms of having
Th-
to follow all these separate storylines.
There is, yeah. I do admittedly feel it was fairly well balanced. I mean, a lot of major blockbuster type movies do have that structure anyway because you are following a few different characters and you have to remind yourselves where they are when you see them again. It maybe hasn't been for 20 minutes, 25
Yeah.
minutes, maybe, but you do have to do that. I do feel it was quite well balanced though, given that we got kind of four character teams really. One being Jacob and Brian, one being Dom and Brie Larson, who's in this movie as Mr. Nobody's daughter,
Yeah.
because Mr. Nobody, Kurt Russell, has gone off
Dark.
to
Yeah.
retirement seemingly, and nobody knows where he is. But Brie Larson was really quite good in this movie. I really did like
Yeah,
Brie
like, she was
Larson in
having
this movie.
fun, like, she was really cool. I mean, I actually loved all her outfits, like, I thought she was just a
Oh
badass
yeah,
and a great ally for the team and really fighting for them.
new
Uh,
cast members really, you know, coming to town with the outfits. I think
yes.
showing up with the outfits. Both her and Momoa just the outfits in Fast and Furious movies tend to be quite boring. People wearing vests and
And leather jackets and
leather and
tank
you
tops,
know yeah,
white
tank
t-shirt.
tops or tight t-shirts or things like this. But there's very out there outfits going on from Brie Larson and Momoa, and I did like that. But credit to Brie Larson for coming into this movie and this series so late on, being a fairly minor part, but obviously a big name, a massive name, and just wanting to have fun with it. Like, you can't fault that
Yeah,
because she
yeah,
does a perfectly good job. She's obviously very competent in an action sense, and you get that
yes.
in the movie.
I just thought
Um,
it was funny that, like, she gets shot in the arm, but he still,
she
like,
does.
carries her, like, you just have to show how rugged you are in Diesel. Like, she got shot in the arm. She doesn't need you to, like, carry her across the threshold like that. It was a bit much.
You know what he's like with his symbolism? It's probably something religious, isn't it? I mean, we did think it was a bit overly religious when he alone saved the entire Vatican from
Yeah.
a big bomb. It was a bit too religious. I mean, Fast and Furious is somewhat a very symbolically Catholic franchise, I think, isn't it? A lot
Yeah,
of the time, it's very
surprisingly.
much tradition and family and it loves that sort of thing. Everything's to do with Dom's necklace, which is obviously a big
Yes.
crucifix.
Cross, yeah.
Um, so you can't, I suppose, you can't hate the movie for being what it is. Really, I mean, it's not like it's doing something completely different or completely out there, or completely
No,
unexpected.
it was just like, really, did you need to do all that?
I don't think they did need to do that. No, I don't. I did quite like Danielle Melchior as well. I think she's doing a really great job when she's showing up in an awful lot of movies, it
Yeah.
seems like these days.
Oh, yeah, her little part in, Guardians and now here. And
Yeah.
also just, like, of course, they had to connect her randomly to a lost character to keep kind of those
Yes.
connections going. So she's Elena's sister, and
So
Dom, of
she's
course,
in the
knew
family as
that.
well now. Oh,
Yes,
of
yeah.
course he did. Yes, of course he did.
You could
Because he's so
tell,
perceptive.
yeah, the smile of her eyes or whatever he said.
He's so perceptive. But I think she's really good in this movie as well. You get the really, really interesting kind of hateful team up of Letty and Cypher as well. Cypher plays a really
Ooh.
interesting role in this movie
Yeah, coming to
of,
warn them, and then,
yeah,
the
coming
enemy
to
of my
Dom's
enemy kinda
house.
situation. Yeah. Yeah, the enemy of my enemy type situation, and then kind of her explaining the story and seeing how that played out, how she was able to get away, a really fun fight sequence. And, again, we talked about the really, interesting, kind of smart switch up on how he was able to kind of hijack her whole theme.
Yeah.
And so just kind of circumstances them being stuck together and some really just solid fight scenes between the two of them. So that was a really interesting team up, I think, to pair up these two. And um I don't know if we're leaning into Cypher joining the family type territory, but I guess that is to be
I mean,
determined.
that would be a bit much, I think, wouldn't it? Because
Yes,
of
I mean, because she
exactly
killed
what she did
Elena.
do.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was
I
hard
don't think
enough for
Dom would be
people.
it's really Dom that says yes or no in terms of who
Yeah,
joins the
and I mean,
family, and I don't think Dom will ever
it
forgive
was hard
Cypher.
enough, like, even forming an alliance with Deckard, us thinking
Yeah.
he killed Han, only for, Han that them to be like, "Okay, people don't like Deckard because of this, so let's just, make it that he didn't kill, and then work it into the story, work it into this movie. Han showing up at Deckard's door and Deckard immediately being like suspicious, like, I attempted to kill you, so now you're here for revenge type thing. And then, Han having to, so seeing them kind of come face to face and how that whole
Yeah,
situation plays out. Um, and then
because
ultimately that kind of,
you get the Han, Roman, Tej, and Ramsey team as
yes.
well, who after Rome end up being smuggled in a shipping container to London,
Yeah.
and find Pete Davidson, which is weird.
Yeah. Very
What's he
random.
doing in this
What
movie?
is he doing?
I don't mind. I don't mind Pete Davidson. I don't, but he's just like, I was not
Why?
expecting this. What on
Why?
earth is he doing
Well,
in this
it's
movie?
definitely very much like the Cardi B cameo in
Oh, that's
in
true. I
9.
suppose. Yeah,
Yeah, which
I
I
forgot
only
about that.
recently learned she was meant to be the sister of, I don't know if you remember in 4 when they're doing the whole gas tank heist, and there's a girl with Han, and she's the one who gets out of the car and, like, attaches his truck to the gas tank.
Okay.
Uh, Cardi B is supposed to be that character's little sister.
Oh, for God's sake! Why does everything have to be so family connected?
Family.
It's so annoying. It is so annoying. Everybody has to be involved with everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as the Letty and Cypher stuff go, I did enjoy that because Letty kind of gets put in a very very high security prison, and in the middle of Antarctica, like a black site
Yeah.
prison,
Yeah.
and Cypher ends up there, and it's they kind of have to fight with each other, and because they obviously don't like each other particularly, or certainly
But they
Letty
also have
really
to work
doesn't like
together.
Cypher. But
Yeah,
yeah, they do have to work together, and it
to get
ends up
out.
being that they escape that prison through like
Facility,
the
yeah.
roof hatch thing, only for Cypher at the very, very end of the movie to announce that she has this huge kind of whatever it vehicle, whatever
Well,
it
the
is, submarine. What
submarine
is it?
that she it's the s I'm pretty sure it's the
Is
same
it the
submarine.
green
She I
submarine
would assume so, the same submarine she had in 8, um, or,
with
like,
Gal
maybe
Gadot
she
in?
yes, so either she repaired it or got a new one, I don't know. And, yeah, and Gal Gadot is working with her
But why
somehow
Gal
this
Gadot's there? I don't know.
and
Why
how
is
did she
she there?
survive that runway situation?
How did she get there? I don't
Why
know how she
why
got
hasn't
there.
she contacted anybody in all this time?
It's so weird.
Unless she just like, "Oh, Han is dead, so I don't there's who am I gonna contact?" But, like,
But that's
contact
like
the
the very end of the
family.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the very end of the movie.
But no,
That's
like, if
after
you're
the
seeing
cliffhanger
her
we do get
yes,
anyway.
but I mean, if you're seeing her, you're thinking all of these things. Why didn't she contact the family?
You
Like,
are, yeah.
even, you're not gonna contact Han if you think Han is dead, but why not contact the rest of them, or something? So
You'd think so.
what was the situation of her mission with Cypher that she couldn't talk to them?
I'm sure we'll find out in
And
the
why would
next
she be
movie because
working with her unless she has no idea what Cypher just did to her
exactly.
family? So, yeah, all kinds it just
I,
raises so many questions.
I am sure we'll figure it all out and find all out in the next movie because, like we say, it is a setup movie, so we do get that quite intriguing setup, but again, just kind of how is this character not dead
Yes.
setup, as well as all the Han, Roman, Tej, and Ramsey stuff because they have their own little fun story to go on in this movie and find out, how to or figure out exactly what Dante's doing. Ramsey has some kind of introspection on the creation of God's Eye because Dante steals God's Eye as
Yeah,
well and
now it's
uses
using
it
it.
for
And
what it was
they all
not supposed to
seemingly
be intended to
but
use
again
for. Obviously, Ramsey created God's Eye,
yeah,
so
and then
it's it's I suppose it's interesting in that way, and they
But then it all ends
all
up leading to potential loss of them, but, like,
of all
you know.
4 of them, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yes.
I didn't see that plane crash properly, Janine.
No. So, yeah, they're all on a plane coming to the rescue to Dom, and he's excited to see them, and then, the new guy running the kind of secret society corporation,
Yeah, Dom gets
secret
double crossed.
service thing ends up crashing their plane. So, we just see their plane kind of crash behind some mountains, and so we don't know, what happened with them, but supposedly,
Roman and Tej also have a really quite hilarious fight
Oh,
at Pete
yes.
Davidson's little hacking shop
Yes, and then
in
they
London.
ultimately kind of
That's quite
make
fun.
peace with each other, and I think that finally kind of have a nice, honest moment with each other as well.
They
So,
do, yes.
yeah, their relationship gets a bit of an arc. And I also like that they haven't committed to, like, Ramsey picking one of them, and it's still kind of just a running thing with the 3 of them because, um
No, I mean, I am entirely with both Roman and Tej in this fascination and fondness.
yes. You
So,
you completely
I
understand
I
that.
I can, I can identify with the both of them. Although I wouldn't try and get into kind of petty, silly, slapping fights with each other,
Over her, yeah.
in front of her. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be doing
Yes.
that. But
But,
who
we do
knows where
also.
they're gonna be now? Who knows where they're
Yes,
gonna be? Because there'll
yes,
be a
and we
plane
just see.
crash regardless.
Yes, and we just see Deckard kinda go off to find his mother because she's under threat of death in this whole situation.
Yeah,
So,
and
we
we never
don't
see
really.
Deckard again after we go to him in
Yeah.
London and have a bit of a fight and have a bit of a, mercenaries show up there. We have a bit of a beat up of him and Han fighting all these mercenaries, which is interesting to see them almost team up to fight these guys. Deckard's got that guy strapped into his punching bag, which is really quite horror movie like. I thought that
Well,
was
yeah,
very,
that
very
was
disturbing.
that was the post well, that was the kind of like the beginning of, a scene that they showed at the end of 9. It was like the post credit of 9.
Okay.
So we do see that whole kind of segment, I think him punching the guy in the punching bag and then answering his door and it's Han, and then it ends there. Then
Okay.
yes, in
Okay.
9. Um, so yeah, so we just see him go off to save his mom, so I don't know if it's gonna be a situation of, if we're really trying to make this big and bad for these, part 2 and 3, whatever, are we gonna see, brother and sister join him to save mom? So, um, you know.
I mean, possibly. Given that now, well, given that everybody's back now,
Yeah, are we
because
gonna
not
see
only
Vanessa
do we then,
Kirby? Are we gonna see Luke
yeah,
Evans come back and have the Shaw family save their mom? Because I think that would be
I
really
would, I
fun.
would like that. I
Yeah.
would actually like that because yes, okay, we do end with a cliffhanger. We do end with Dom
Yeah.
now with little Brian at the bottom
In
of
this
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 dam
dam explosion, yeah.
that is definitely about to flood, by the way. Jason Momoa's Dante stood at the top of this, laughing like an insane
Set
creature.
all these bombs onto the dam and has blown it up, and
The
they've
plane
crashed into the
with
bottom, yeah.
Roman, Tej Ramsey, and Hanon has crashed. Jacob looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
Dom doesn't know where Letty and Cypher are. Dom doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And Gal Gadot. So he doesn't know anything about that. It's literally, for what it looks like, him, his son, facing off an exploding dam. And that's where the movie ends.
Yes. So yeah, all our team is still separate, divided. Some are potentially lost. So yeah, definitely a setup movie, a cliffhanger movie, which is a bit of a bummer. I think even a cliffhanger movie can feel like a movie on its own and maybe do some of those things, leave maybe one thing kind of hanging out there, and then kind of use your post credits to expand it a little bit further. Because I mean, even
Yes.
MCU movies are part of this big continuing universe, but they managed to make movies that you could watch on their own without having to wait for something or expect something to come
Yeah,
next to
and
complete
this
that
movie,
story.
this movie just frankly doesn't have an ending.
No.
It doesn't. It has a lot of interesting things going on. A lot of, especially for Fast and Furious movies, a lot of interesting story points going on, character team ups, that you want to see a resolution of, a resolving of. But this movie doesn't give you that
No, it
because it's
ends like a
part of
season
a larger
finale.
whole. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It's a strange way to end because it doesn't give you clarity on anything. I can understand why they did it now that we know they want to make the big finale of this series a multiple movie thing.
Yeah.
I can understand why they did it like this. It's just a little bit. I wanted a bit more of a conclusion from
Yeah.
this one
Uh,
particular movie, because what this one does with its post-credit scene is something that was unfortunately spoiled, I think, for an awful lot of people a couple of weeks ago.
yeah. And it
Um,
also, like, it feels hollow, like, I feel like a lot of people, while they could have been excited about this, it just looks like, The
it looks
Rock
so
is kind
bad.
of The Rock is kind of running back to a stable franchise that he knows he's liked because all his kind of pomp and, chest pounding about Black Adam just didn't go the way he planned, so he kinda has to crawl back.
That is so much what it looks like, though.
And that's what it looks like, and it just takes away the enjoyment of, him being that character, because I think people love him as Hobbs. He's great as that character. When he had that introduction, he was so fun in 5. Um, and obviously, yeah, like, he was the one who ultimately pulled the trigger and killed Dante's father, so, you need him
Yeah,
kind of in this story, but just the way it was revealed, the way he's kind of just tacked on, it feels very much like, "Oh, my franchise failure, I have to go back to something
yeah.
kind
And
of
that is our
familiar."
mid-credit scene.
Yeah,
We don't get a post-credit scene.
no.
We get that as a mid-credit scene. It does feel like that. Yes, it's exciting in a way that literally, seemingly, the family is so huge at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's
How are
enormous
you
at
gonna,
this
like
point.
how are you gonna continue this on and not do things that feel stale or feel done already? I mean, this franchise is full of that, but they found a way to really kind of keep it fun and fresh for us. So,
Yeah, it's
leaving us with, I think their way of maybe doing that going forward is leaving us with these cliffhangers so that,
possibly.
the resolution to those things is what's going to keep us coming back.
And it will. I enjoyed the movie. I really
I
did.
definitely, yeah, I had more fun with this movie than I did with 9. Like, watched 9 the first time and I felt myself zoning out, looking at my phone, not really paying attention because I didn't see it in the theater even. I saw, I was like, I don't
Okay.
know why. For whatever reason, I missed it in theaters, and I knew, like, I love this franchise. I love the ridiculousness of it. I just bought it on a VOD and was watching it at home, and just I could not get into it. Like, the storyline was just not very interesting. Even the action set pieces weren't as fun as other films. The plot felt a little bit convoluted, and I just didn't have that much fun with it. Um and then, but this one I did, like, that Jason Momoa's villain was a lot of fun. Having to see these different team ups, I think, was cool. I know you said you liked kind of how it was paced and how it was kind of structured. Um,
Yeah, I did.
for the most part, for what they were trying to do with all of these people, I think they did the best they could do with that, but it did feel a little overwhelming for me having to kind of keep up and bounce around like that. But ultimately, I had fun with the story. They found really creative ways to connect it to, um, the best film, in most people's eyes of the franchise. Um, and I overall just had a lot of fun with this movie. So I enjoyed it.
Yes. Yes. I think we both did enjoy it. Just a little frustrating that it's not a full, complete movie, I think,
Yes.
at the end of the day. But there we go
Yeah.
for our spoiler
Oh,
discussion
just one
on
last thing
Fast X. Oh, one last thing.
Just we just forgot to mention, Miss Rita Moreno and her
Oh,
little
well, of course we did. Goodness me, I'm sorry about that. She does. She pops up for 5 minutes at the beginning of the movie
So
to
she's grandma.
give.
He has a nice little scene with her talking about his father, and
He
his father
does.
would be proud, and then so it makes sense bringing her in at that time because we did see this whole backstory with Dom and his father and that whole situation, and even his father had been a big kind of driving force for him from the first movie. He talked about working on that car. It was his father's
Yeah,
car. It scared him, all of this whole thing. So, they found really interesting ways to circle back to things that do feel like they make sense. And, some things can feel kind of tacked on and like very convoluted to make it connect, very much like the Tokyo Drift stuff. But things like this, having this grandma character, his father's mother come in and visit and give him this kind of whole talk about his father, especially having to see that backstory with his father in nine, I think connects really well. And she apparently was on her hands and knees begging to be in this franchise.
which is
So
ridiculous because she can't get on her hands and knees. She's 90.
yes. Well, whatever she could do, she asked and approached to be in this franchise. So I
I
think they
still don't
found a
believe that.
that's what I've heard. So,
It
um
might be what you've heard. I don't believe it.
okay, fair enough. But I think they found a good way to work her into this family and into this story. So, props to EGOT Queen, groundbreaker,
Yes, I,
Rita Moreno.
I don't. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I enjoyed seeing her. Of course, I enjoyed seeing her. It's a little bit strange how Grandma Toretto, Abuelita Toretto, is only in the movie or only in the series in number 10. But
Yes.
that's not the point. That's not the point. There we go, though. Yes,
Yes.
for our full spoiler discussion of Fast X. For links to all the social media, the Patreon, other shows, all our fun stuff we have, you can find them all in the description of this video. Subscribe, ding the notification bell on this YouTube channel. Leave your likes, leave your thoughts in the comments on what you thought about Fast X yourself. Are you as frustrated that it's not actually a whole movie as I am? A little
Yeah.
bit. I
Yeah.
hope so. I hope you are. But do leave those comments, leave that like, leave those likes, and yes, find us on all the things
Mhm.
down below. Janine, I do think there may only be one thing left for you to do, and I think it's another Vin Diesel
Oh,
impression.
no, it was so terrible. 3, 2, 1, family.
Bye, family. Bye.